Howdy, howdy, fellas. This is actually another Monarch video. I just decided to just play it a little bit more, see if I could get, I haven't played it in a while, get back into the swing of things, check it out some more. Running the same build again. I don't know if this is, I wouldn't claim that that's the best. Because, yeah, sometimes accuracy will troll you like this. This is from another game. This is why it annoys me. Like, this can happen on any ship, but it feels more common on the Monarch than some others. I don't expect to dev strike a Fletcher at 10 kilometers, but a hit or two or three or four, that would be nice. So, those kind of salvos, again, they'll happen with any ship. You can take the most accurate ship in the game, and you'll occasionally get salvos like that, but it's going to be pretty rare for more accurate ones. And this, 1.8 sigma, European dispersion, it happens more often than it does on some ships, and it's just not my favorite. That's annoying. I that shot looked dead on to me, and no hits. Yes, AP instead of HE, but still, that's going to be a good whack on that Fletcher. That's annoying. I just don't like that. And that's just personal preference. There are other things about this ship that can, in some sense, make up for that. But that's kind of one of those things about personal preference. Like, that negative outweighs some of the positives that it brings to the table for my gaming experience. And I think it can also cost you matches. We went on and won that game. It wasn't anything amazing, but it was a fine game. Oh yeah, actually, I remember me and the second place guy got almost exactly the same XP, which was funny to me. I think I was 2175 and he was 2157. I was like, so close to greatness. But anyway, if that match goes another way, if it's super close, if that Fletcher ends up being like kind of the key ship in the game, I've talked about that a couple of times. I haven't really gone into that a while, but you'll have, depending on the match, especially if you're solo, you'll often have like the key ship of the game on each team. You'll have kind of one ship that either makes plays or just has an outsized impact. If that Fletcher ended up being that ship, that salvo not hitting a single shell on him could have turned the game. That's not totally unreasonable. I mean, in some ways it sounds like hyperbole, but I've seen it happen where it's like you miss the one shot and then you never get another one, or like you get another one later and he gets away with a tiny bit of health and then dev strikes some other ship or caps light, whatever. That can change the course of the game. Here we're kind of pushing over to this flank. I saw Nelson and a Bagration. This ship is relatively well equipped to deal with a Nelson. Got 15-inch guns, ever match the bow, can tank a bunch of his fire damage. As long as it doesn't actually, you don't let it build up too much. Even with those super heals, one of the reasons that I've tried to set up a build that I felt comfortable with while still running Fight Fire with Fire is if those heals are on cooldown, they're, a minute 40 seconds, I think it is, which is a little bit longer than kind of the normal. I believe 80 seconds is the normal heal cooldown, and I think these are 100. So yeah, they heal a lot, but if you get caught kind of flat-footed with with your heal on cooldown and get a bunch of fires stacked up, you can still burn down. So I do still like to run Fight Fire with Fire if possible. Yeah, Death Strike, Bagration, and that's the one of the things it's good at. You could Death Strike that Bagration in a lot of battleships. But the Monarch really likes dealing with cruisers, the short fuse. But this fight with the Nelson is also, kind of notwithstanding. Look at that. The first two shots and then the second shot, like every single shell just broke around his nose. And again, so much in this ship that drives me nuts. It is not the end of the world, but it is really frustrating when it happens, and you'll see like it kind of comes back around. I'm annoyed again. It's just like wear damage. It comes back around in the game, but those annoying instances are a bigger problem for me than the positives that it brings later. But let's keep going with this guy. So yeah, I mean the reload is nice, but it's like, another full pin. I think I'm hitting the guns. Like, I want to get a citadel. I want to knock the guns. Oh, I want to do something to like impact this Nelson's ability to take out this Iowa. Oh, I kind of forgot to mention it in the let's like just the gosh, look that salvo. There's just so many of those that end up being disappointing. Um, again, like look at how low those shells went. Yeah, short shells, whatever. That's like the ongoing. Is it? Isn't it? Whatever. There's a lot to be said about the dispersion. Those felt like way further back than I. Whatever. But this kind of stuff, it. What is the damn? I think that's a saturated nose. Again, over and over and over on this fight with the Nelson and with the fight with the Nelson in the previous battle. I've specifically not using Big 7. There we go. There's the Citadels. But I've got to be like close to that thing to hit the Citadels. And that got annoying. I don't know that me not taking out that Nelson cost the Iowa. But it felt, it feels like at these points you need to do something to knock out the other ship before it can finish your teammate or hit the DD or like whatever it is. And so often I find that the Monarch just doesn't capitalize on that opportunity in a way that I want it to. And again, that is the personal preference, like the part why I don't play this ship that much anymore. That I think that Nelson kind of duel, he wasn't even really shooting at me, he was shooting at the other ships, but like trying to take out that Nelson really exemplifies why this ship can be frustrating and not as impactful as you might want it to be. I think in the end, like, yeah, we dev struck him, but it took a lot to get there, and it has to be super close, and that's very similar to the fight that I had with the Nelson in the previous match that I just put up. It's like, I want more. I want to be able to do more than that, and I'm just not sure that the Monarch is ready to capitalize on it, so... Oh yeah, I was saying I had the previous build that I was playing with. It is the same as my Rodney build with Big 7 on AL Nelson. And I think I'm running it on Warspite as well. It lowers the penetration by I believe it's 7%. Is it 15%? Maybe 15% penetration for 15% damage. I think that's right. And just seeing those kinds of fights with the Nelson, I wanted to make absolutely sure that it wasn't my build that was making me dislike the ship over the properties of the ship itself. If I'm getting shatters or kind of underpins not hitting the Citadel, and I'm lowering the penetration of the shells with my build, maybe that's on me. But since I've played, I don't know, 2 or 3 or 4 games with this build, it feels a lot of the same. I think it's the ship. I don't think it's the build. I do actually like this build. Maybe a little more than some of the other ones. I think I'll actually keep this build. Keep it on there. The turret rotation is like right at 33 seconds, which is, especially for this ship, quite zippy. Yeah, and again, like the accuracy, I had been using my Big 7 build. I was using Cunningham and AL Colorado, so whatever that is, about a 7, almost 8% grouping bonus. Salvos don't feel that much different with this one. It still trolls you. So yeah, on that note, I have really enjoyed the new commander presets that they gave. When it was announced, I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, I've got some ideas. I've got some specific builds that I've been kind of wanted to try out or use on specific ships, but I didn't want to ruin or mess up, change a build that I had been using for kind of more other ships. And so I just ended up in the space of like, I know how I want to build this ship, but I don't play it as much, so I just never ended up using it or didn't use it really to the full efficacy of how I personally wanted to build it. With these new cool commander presets, like I've got 2 if you're free to play or don't have premium, 3 if you have premium, which I would kind of recommend just having. It's awesome. Like I found just a ton of like fun niche, mess around with stuff. It's just fun to get a lot of these builds going that I hadn't had a chance to previously. I really enjoy it. And this is one example. Like, I don't have my hood, AL hood, set up with full rotation for any other ship. I can just leave it for the Monarch, and it actually saves it per ship, which I really was worried that they weren't going to do. You know, that's kind of that next little level that we see in a lot of these type of games. It's just like, oh, like that, just one more little thing would have made it perfect, but it actually does save per ship. So that's awesome. Let's kind of rewind a little bit on this sequence. I was coming up on the island. I specifically wanted to wait on engaging with that Amalfi until we had fully capped the zone. You know, this is a close game. We're actually down on points. I want to have the zone before we engage, and he just keeps resetting us. So if I can cap the zone, like, that's way better than just getting him off the map a little faster. And kaboom, he goes down anyway. And then I also started kiting out because I knew that the Zeton was coming eventually. I would love to not be in secondary range for him just to take that extra free damage. You can see there are the salvos that the recessed citadel on the Monarch does help with. So, you know, I mentioned that previously, that it's not like it completely saves you from anything, but in a different ship, maybe those are citadels and this match goes a different way. So I do appreciate the recessed citadel on the Monarch, don't get me wrong. There's a good whack on the Nebraska. There are certainly good aspects to this ship, and it can be a potent ship in the right hands, in the right situation. Right here, I noticed our carrier is like in here. You know, and I'm like begging him to back up. My guess is that at this point in the match, he is looking at the score, looking at the teams, and he's worried that we're not gonna like finish this, so he's trying to get into the Graf Zeppelin secondary range. Like, dude, he is lucky. I mean, I think there were a couple of salvos. Yeah, like the Zeton shooting at me there instead of him. I think he easily could have eaten it here. He could have eaten the torpedoes. There's a good whack on the Zeton. Like, if the Monarch gave you salvos like that more frequently, like, yes, please. Then that's, I like this, the short AP, the quick reload. If you get an opportunity to take these kind of, be in a fight and continuously take decent shots on these ships, I think this is another, yep, 10k again on the Zeton, a lot in the superstructure, but got 2 full pins. Don't get me wrong, the ship can put out damage. It's just like, how reliable is it in those times where you don't get to sit there and just keep shooting? And I think that can't be underestimated of, like, sometimes you only get the one shot, and that one shot matters, and when you don't have that reliable accuracy, that can be a problem. Lost the kill on the Zeton. That's not the end of the world. You know, I love to get a Kraken as much as the next guy, but again, I'd rather win. I'm not fishing for the Krakens. Oh, here, this was a weird thing. I felt like I don't know if I had like stick drift or something, but on that shot, I felt like I was really struggling to get my stick to go up a little bit. I wanted those shells to be up higher, and it finally got the rear turret up a little bit. That was just a little bit of a weird. I remember thinking in the game, I'm like, why can't I aim up? But it is what it is. Got the kill anyway. Maybe that one kind of makes up for the Zeton, and spoiler alert, this Nebraska, like, I don't know, maybe I deserved the Kraken in this match, because I think I kind of did. Could have gotten the Nebraska and the Zeton. It didn't. It's fine. We're up to 170,000. We're going to end a little bit over that. Got the 2 solo caps. This has been a good game in the Monarch. I end up scoring the XP scores pretty well, but again, it's even doing well in this ship in this match. I still felt frustrated playing it. Like right there. Like, where the, like I. Why is that only 2 hits on a 7-kilometer Nebraska? And maybe that's the drawback of the build. Maybe I need to go back and try again with more grouping. Maybe there's another version of this that reins in the accuracy even a little better. I haven't spent a ton of time fine-tuning this build to get the absolute best performance. But, I win this match. I played pretty well, scored well. Still felt a little frustrated with the ship, and for me that's like, maybe that's a ship I don't play that all that often, but it is still a fine ship. It can perform very well in the right scenarios. Maybe one final note. We see that Shakalov pick up a Kraken, and then we see, he's finally coming for me, and we also saw one in the previous video I posted, completely, whatever his drop was, 25k. I've mentioned this before, like, not to toot my horn, but just like how this match unfolded, like I ended up being kind of the mission critical, the linchpin, the key ship of the blue team in this match. And the Chocolov's saying, half the rest of the team, but he never attacked me until the end. And that's not necessarily something you can know until the game is unfolding. And that's sometimes that costs you the match, and it probably cost him. So, GG.